Good morning. We'll start up here in a few minutes. I'm just gonna give people a chance to log into the presentation. So I'm seeing the numbers increase, so that's a great thing. So we'll start here in a couple. I'll give it probably another 15 seconds and then we'll get started. People are coming in pretty quickly here. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us today. Today's a great topic. A lot of people have interest in various certifications that are out there. So that's going to be the main topic we're going to be talking about today. A little bit about registrations, which are important too, but the primary focus of this presentation is going to be on the various certifications that are out there and selling to the government. First, a little bit about who we are. We're the Apex Accelerator, formerly known as the PTAC, the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. And locally, we're administered by the Monterey County Business Council. And PTACs, now Apex Accelerator, has been funded by the Department of Defense since 1985. And there's 96 centers in the U.S., 7 within California. And the mission of all Apex Accelerators is to promote economic growth and create economic employment opportunities in the local markets that they serve. And we do that by facilitating your access to the government marketplace. And though we're federally funded, that means access to state opportunities, local, like county, city, towns, etc. One thing I'll quickly add too is that you hear a lot in the news about potential federal government shutdown. Is that because of the nature of how our relationship works with the Department of Defense, Apex Accelerators will be open for business if there's happens to be a government shutdown. So don't worry about that. But it might impact, say, the number of the normal flow of solicitations that come through and those types of things, and maybe kind of a little slowdown in companies that have contracts with receiving payment. But we'll be open. So this is just a map of the various of those 7 Apex Accelerators in the state of California. We're that teal area in the middle of the state, Central Coast, Central Valley. So if you're in one of the other colored areas in the state, you can either reach out to us or just reach out to one of these others here. One thing I forgot to mention is you'll be receiving a copy of this PowerPoint as well as a link so that you can hear the presentation again. So you can feel comfortable with that. So these are the services that basically all Apex Accelerators across the country provide. First and foremost, just one-on-one counseling, meeting with you, getting to know you, your business, what you've done in the past, what are you currently doing, and then of course your goals with government contracting. In that process, we provide pre-award assistance. Work with you, teach you how to do market research to find opportunities, help you review those opportunities that you find so that you can understand once you look at a solicitation or contract opportunity, notice whatever name it goes by, they can be pretty confusing when you first look at them. So we can help you walk through that. And then capability statements is it's a promotional piece that was basically created for the federal marketplace, but you're seeing it adopted in a lot of other like especially with state government or prime contractors that do a lot of work with the federal government, like to see capability statements, and we can help you put one of those together. It's a great tool to really kind of get your name out there in the government marketplace. Post-award assistance, you might ideally get a contract award, but then conflicts might arise, so we can kind of help you coach you on what to do at that point. Talk to you a little bit about what are debriefs, protests, how they apply to your business. Outreach events. So we're out there in the marketplace, basically attending a variety of different events, telling people about the services that we provide. Typically, if we're at an outreach event, not only are we there telling people, what it is that we do, but oftentimes, like we're doing today, we'll be doing some training there as well. Bid matching. Bid matching is a service where we use a third-party vendor that basically we work with you, set up a profile for your business, upload it into their system, and then their system will go out and search literally thousands of web pages where governments are posting their contract opportunities. Any match between what the government has posted and the profile that we've helped you create, then will just be emailed directly to you. So it'll save you the time and effort of going to all these different websites yourself. And then, like what we're going to talk about today, we help you navigate certification programs. So I won't go into much of that because that's what we're going to be talking about. And then one of the great things is where your tax dollars at work, no fees or commitments to you. So with that, though, I'd like to introduce to you a great strategic partner of ours, Sharon Mikesell with the Cal Coastal Small Business Development Center.
Great. Thank you very much, Victor. And like Victor mentioned, I am Sharon Mikesell, the program manager of the Cal Coastal Small Business Development Center. You may know us a little better as Cal Coastal SBDC. If you didn't know it already, there is about 1,000 SBDC centers nationwide. We are part of the Central California SBDC network. And what that means is that Cal Coastal SBDC provides small businesses in Monterey and San Benito counties with one-on-one, no-fee business advising, training, and access to comprehensive resources and information that helps businesses start, grow, and succeed, and get you ready for these government contracts. We provide financial education, business plan guidance, marketing tips, and all of that can help businesses get started with government contracts. We find that many of our clients get started with government contracting as subcontractors or with contracts with cities, counties, and special districts. Our services, of course, complement Apex Accelerator services, so we recommend signing up for services from both of our organizations, especially since, as Victor mentioned, there's no cost to you. And there's no cost to you because we have the support of our partners that include the U.S. Small Business Administration, the California Office of the Small Business Advocate, local partners that include the Monterey County Workforce Development Board, the Monterey County Business Council, the City of Salinas, and of course, our host and small business lender, Cal Coastal Rural Development Corporation. So if you're not already our client and you're in Monterey and San Benito counties, please visit our website at calcoastalsbdc.com and click that little green Get Started button. And of course, you can always follow us on social media, no matter where you are. So thanks for joining us today. I'm going to throw it back over to Victor to start today's presentation.
Great. Thank you, Sharon. So yes, take advantage of SBDCs. They're a really great complement to the work that we do. And oftentimes, especially if you're just like a brand new startup, oftentimes we'll say, go work with the SBDC, kind of really develop a business plan of what you want to do to succeed, and then kind of come back to us. So great program and great expertise there to take advantage of. So let's jump into what we're going to talk about today. So briefly, like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to talk about some of the primary registrations that you need to look at, some other registrations that are out there, talk about why get certified, the primary certifications that are out there, because there's actually quite a few. And then these last parts, this basic requirements, typical documentation requirements, that's kind of the thing that's kind of important to know. So we're going to spend a little more time on that. And then we'll talk about a DBE certification, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, what that means and how it relates to NAICS codes. And then just get into some frequently asked questions about certifications, and then what certification does and doesn't do for you as a business owner. So let's just jump into it. So registration. So if you want to sell to the federal government, you'll be required to register what's called the System for Award Management, and people just call it SAM. So you'll hear that term, are you registered in SAM? When you register in SAM, you'll if you're a small business, I'm assuming most of you probably are, it'll also immediately create a profile for you in the Small Business Administration's Dynamic Small Business Search, the DSBS database. And we can kind of help coach you on these systems. One thing I'll tell you too is that if you're not registered in SAM, register with us, and then let us walk you through the process of getting registered in SAM, because they've made some changes to their portal and it can be confusing. And once you make a mistake in it, it becomes a lot more of a hassle to correct that mistake than just doing it right the first time. Likewise, when your profile is created in the DSBS automatically from SAM, there's additional information you can add to that. And then we can kind of coach you on how to get to where you need to be to add that information and the kind of information that you can add to it. Now, when you're want to sell directly to the state of California, and that's all the hundreds of agencies that are part of the state, you register in what's called the Cal e-Procure system. And much simpler than registering SAM. And then other registrations. So again, our focus is on government contracting, so it could be federal, state, but here are local governments that you also want to consider: counties, cities, towns, districts like school districts, water districts, those kinds of things. They're government. And then also large government contractors. So again, you're not selling directly to the government, but large government contractors have to meet small business participation goals. So they're going to ask you to register with them as well. So, and again, once you're in their database, it just makes it that much easier for those prime contractors to reach out to you, find you, to say, hey, we're looking at a project coming up. We're looking for subcontractors. We love it if you'd submit a bid on your specific scope of work. So why get certified? So we've talked about, getting registered. So that's first step. But now the nitty gritty we're going to talk about today is why get certified. So basically, the reason why you want to get certified is in many cases, the government agency might have a preference for, say, they want to give a preference, meaning that they may give a discount of, say, 5% to, say, let me just use the state of California as an example. The state of California has a disabled veteran business enterprise certification. If you're disabled veteran business enterprise and you're small, you get actually a 7% discount. So if your price is within 7% of the lowest offer that isn't small nor veteran, that contract will be awarded to you. So that's a great thing. It varies as far as say minority and women preferences with local government, but preferences are out there. Now, set-asides are a little bit different, whereas in the federal marketplace, contracting officers that can actually set aside contracts to say, okay, only certified woman-owned businesses or only certified veteran-owned business, as an example, can submit an offer on this opportunity. Likewise, with the state of California, they only have basically two set-asides. One is that you're a small business, and the other is disabled veteran business enterprise, but they can actually do that. And then with the condition of award is that's when I was talking earlier about prime contractors. Oftentimes when it's a large contract, as a condition of the award, the government will tell that prime contractor, okay, you need to meet certain goals that we've applied to this contract, where you need to give a percentage of the work to a small business, say a woman-owned, veteran-owned, 8A, HUBZone, etc. So again, what it's doing is it's reducing the competition that you have out there, which actually is the next one. So that's the thing. If it is set aside for, say, a woman-owned business, only, and this is important part, only certified woman-owned businesses can submit an offer. And one thing I want to stress is that, say it's a federal opportunity and it's set aside for woman-owned business, even though you're, 100% woman-owned business, if you're not certified, your offer won't even be reviewed. That's the first thing they're going to check to see whether you're certified by the SBA. There are various entities out there that certify different companies, and say if you have a certification from, say, your state or some of these others that I'm going to talk about, it's not going to count. So again, it has to be, if it's federal, it has to be the SBA's woman-owned small business certification. And then reciprocity. In some cases, if you have a certification from one government agency or one program, it'll be accepted by another. So you don't have to go through that certification process with the other entity, which is a great thing because it really saves the small business owner a lot of hassle. Unfortunately, in some markets that I've seen, the city will have its certification program, the county will have a certification program, the state will have it, and you get certified by the city and the county says, I won't accept it. And you say, well, I'm certified by the state too. And they say, we don't care. We want you to have ours. So the reciprocity is a great thing when where it's being used. And it's not universal. Like I said, so every state is different. So it is what it is. And then this last part I put in there, it just says lending package. When we go through the documentation later in the presentation, basically almost everything that you submit in a certification package is the same kind of information that a lender wants to see in approving you for any kind of loan, line of credit, or anything like that. So it's kind of you'll have all that information in one place. So it's kind of a nice thing. So these are the primary certifications. So, and again, they vary. So in the federal marketplace, you have a woman-owned small business, veteran-owned small business, service-disabled veteran-owned small business, and then you have 8A. There is another certification that I'm not going to really get into today, but it's called a HUBZone certification, and that's based more upon the location of your business, whereas these certifications are more based upon the owners of the company. With the 8A, there's an asterisk there because right now, due to a recent court ruling back in Tennessee in July, the SBA is not accepting any new 8A applications. They've got to kind of go through the courts and figure some things out to see what'll happen. What I'm hearing is it'll come back, but they just kind of need to get through some of this legal mess that's been created by this court decision. The state, a lot of these are similar, but they break it down like this. There's a micro business and a small business, which micro business is a small business, but it's a really small business. And then you have a disabled veteran business enterprise. And then you have a small business public works, meaning that you're certified, but you're a construction company. And then a disadvantaged business enterprise. And I'm going to kind of go in a little bit more detail with disadvantaged business enterprise, the DBE program, because there's some confusion about that as well. So again, had a bunch of acronyms there. So here I just kind of spell them out. MBE, minority business enterprise, WB, woman, DBE, disadvantaged business enterprise. And disadvantage actually means you're either a minority or a woman. So you're seeing too that a movement where now you have this LGBT business enterprise certification as well. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then you have the veteran-owned small business and the service-disabled veteran-owned small business. And again, you could add here if you wanted to the state one where they use a different term, the Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise, DVBE. One thing I'll say about What was it here? I'm losing my track. Yeah, it'll come back to me. Don't worry about it. And I mentioned these three here on the bottom: NMSDC, which stands for National Minority Supplier Development Council; WBENC, Women Business Enterprise National Council; and the Supplier Clearinghouse. NMSDC was created back in the late 70s, basically in a response to affirmative action programs that the federal government created, where the corporate America said, hey, we need to do more like what the federal government is doing. WeBank is the same, but they focus just on women-owned businesses. And the Supplier Clearinghouse is unique to the state of California, but basically, the California Utility Commission has created a policy where they say, if you're a utility supplier in the state of California, you need to have a supplier diversity program. You need to be kind of creating opportunities for some of these groups that you see up above here. And we're going to talk a little bit more about them here in a minute. So with the federal certifications, for the most part, you can see here on the right, the certified entity is that the SBA is the entity that does the certifications. It used to be that, oh, I know what I was going to mention earlier, is that, you know, the state of California does have a certification for a small business. But a misperception is people think that the federal government has a certification for a small business, but they don't. When you register in SAM, you just click a button there that says, I'm small, and they just take your word for it. But there is no certification process that you have to go through. The VA used to do the veteran-owned small business and the service sale veteran-owned small business in addition to the SBA, and the government finally realized, why we have two different federal agencies doing this? Let's just put it all under one roof. So now the SBA is doing it. And then, like, as I mentioned earlier, with the 8A program, currently the SBA is not accepting any new applications. And all they're doing is basically, if somebody's already certified as an 8A, they can stay in the program as long as they submit what's called a narrative statement of disadvantage. And if they don't, then I guess they'll lose their status. But for now, again, it's on a hiatus. You can go to sba.gov and there's a menu at the top that says federal contracting, and you'll see 8A. You can click on it and get more information about this temporary hold on any new applications. So with the state certifications, these top ones here, micro business, small business public works, and disabled veteran business, they're all done by the Department of General Services. So if you go to the eProcure website, you'll see there on the upper right hand corner a blue box, and it says get certified. So that's where you start that process. The process with the state is a lot easier than getting certified by the SBA or any of the others. The disadvantaged business enterprise, and one thing I'll say too that you may or may not be aware of, the state of California does not allow for any kind of preference to be given to, or like I say, a set aside for women or minorities. They used to do that, but it was abolished by voters back in 1996. The DBE, though, is actually a federal program. So any local governments receiving money from the U.S. Department of Transportation then has to apply DBE goals onto their contracts. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about it, but it's basically the certifying entity is either Caltrans or what's called the California Unified Certification Program, and I'll show you who those are. In addition to the DBE, they have the airport concession disadvantaged business enterprise. So when you go to the airport and you see the restaurants and the bookstores and all other little stores, the airports are required to try to have disadvantaged business owners operating in the airports. So again, I mentioned the private sector certifications for a couple things, because in some cases, actually, I missed this point. If you're a woman-owned business that wants to get certified by the SBA, you can either go through the SBA to get certified, or you can go through a third-party certifier, which actually is something that I recommend because of the fact that the SBA has been notoriously slow in processing their women business owned certifications. So I tell people, yeah, it might cost you some money, but it'll be a lot faster for you to obtain them. So again, Supplier Clearinghouse, you can see on here on the right, these are the certifications that they basically will process: minority, women, disabled, veteran, and then LGBTQ certifications. Again, NMSDC, National Minority Supplier Development Council, does the minority business, and then the women business enterprise is done by WeBank, and there's a couple others that do certifications. So for the SBA, as an example, their third-party certifiers are National Association of Women Business Owners, WeBank here, the National Women's Chamber of Commerce, and then the El Paso Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And then there's this new, relatively new one here for veterans. It's called a National Veteran-Owned Business Association. And I mention them because oftentimes a lot of the companies that are members of these larger organizations, although they're private sector companies, they have to meet goals with the federal government. So they may ask you to get a certification for one of these organizations versus one that the government actually has. So I don't want to get too lost in the weeds with this, but with the certifications, they're kind of all similar, but there's some differences in it. One I want to kind of point out is like this one here, legal residence. So for a woman-owned certification, you have to be a citizen. But for a veteran or service disabled, you can be a legal resident. 8A, same thing, you have to be a citizen. In some cases, you can see these where they look at your personal assets and then also personal net worth. And I'll talk about that later, but and then this other part is important too, is that this woman-owned small business where it says fee, yes, no. Again, that goes to, if the SBA does it, there's no fee, but if you use one of the third-party certifiers, there is a fee. And actually, this one here is incorrect. It should say yes, no. Again, on-site visit depends on who actually does the certification. So if it's the SBA, there won't be a site visit, but if it's one of the others, more than likely there will be a site visit. So this one's just kind of, this is kind of the same thing, but it's the state, you know, for the most part with these certifications here, micro, small business, public works, disabled veteran, business enterprise. They don't care about this stuff here, this, whether you're a legal resident or personal net worth or anything like that. They more are focused on the size of the company, as you can see here. Now with the DBE, which again is the state does it because the U.S. Department of Transportation requires every state to have a DBE program, does have these personal net worth. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's less than 1.3 million. Again, they're requiring, saying that you can be a resident, legal resident, or a citizen, and they will require a site visit. You know, they'll come out to your place of business, look around, ask questions, etc. And then the state actually does have these small minority business enterprise and small women business enterprise certifications. They're not used very often, but for in some cases, per local preferences, they want to see that you have a certification. And I'm not totally clear on, as an example, if you were certified by, say you're a woman-owned business and certified by WeBank, if the local government would accept that or not. I do know that basically each local government's going to operate in a slightly different way. So again, these are the private sector ones that I'd mentioned. One thing too that I can say is that with these supplier clearinghouse, and again, this applies to all the utility companies. So again, that can be good business opportunities for you selling to utility companies that need goods and services that completed for them. But there's no fee to that for you at all to get those done. Again, all these supplier clearinghouse certifications, you can be a legal resident, but then when you get into some of these others here, as far as minority with NMSDC or WeBank, they won't accept that, etc. Let's just kind of look though. You heard me mention a little bit about this disadvantaged business enterprise certification. So again, this one applies to minorities and women. And again, there's a personal net worth with this one of $1.3 million. And it's administered by Caltrans and then this California Unified Certification Program, this CUCP. And I'll show you, and what that means basically is that USDOT, you can see there, this is required by USDOT, but USDOT allows each state to manage and operate their certification program kind of any way they want to. So the state of California has made a decision that in addition to Caltrans doing it internally, they actually have partnered and allowed other entities within the state that are part of this unified certification program to also do the certifications for them. And it actually makes it easier for the small business to get certified just because there's more people out there doing it and more people that are maybe closer to where you are. So that way it makes it easier for the site visit to take place. And for the most part, the DBE certification really applies to highways, roads, railways, airport work. You know, think of transportation work, and it's, 95% of it is all construction work. The other thing that's really important to understand is that you see this term here, commercially useful function, CUF. That's really important to note because the DBE firm needs to perform a commercially useful function. And you can actually put that word in your Google and do a search and it'll kind of explain it to you. But basically what it's saying is that you can't be like a broker. You can't buy, say, just kind of set it up where you find one company that's going to do a service that this other company needs, and then you just kind of help facilitate that transaction. You need your own people actually kind of doing some of the work. So the other thing that's important is to note is that not all projects will have a goal or a condition of award. So if you go to Caltrans website and look at new contract opportunities, you'll see construction projects that are coming up, and you'll see where they'll show this project has a DBE goal of 8% or 12% or 15%, or some projects that won't have any goals at all. And the reason there's different goals for different projects is they do their market research. They see what the scope of work that's going to entail. They look at the directory of certified firms, where the project is located, to really kind of get a sense of, how many realistically subcontractors they can get on the project. And as you can see here, it's a condition award. The way the DBE program works, you can see this next bullet point. It says it's more advantageous for subcontractors. The way this program was developed way back when in the 80s, the idea was that large prime contractors then were given sort of the responsibility to subcontract some of that work to, minority owned and women owned businesses. So if you're a general contractor, if you can be real competitive on a project, you may still be awarded that project, but you would still have to meet those goals. But the program is really set up for subcontractors. So if you're a prime contractor, would be that, okay, this project I'm going to be a prime, but on this next project I'm going to be a subcontractor or somebody else because of the DBE goals on the project. This next one, it says exclude all pertinent NAICS codes. So one of the things that has happened in the last 10 years or so is that these certifying entities are paying more attention to, or transportation, departments of transportation of the various states we're seeing that prime contractors were kind of playing around with these NAICS codes, basically awarding contracts to a company that they knew couldn't do the work. And so then they would come back and say, oh, well, we found out they couldn't do the work, so then we self-performed the work ourselves, so we didn't meet the goal, and that's why. So what you want to do when you're getting certified is include all pertinent NAICS codes that apply to your company. And when you look at NAICS codes, you can see, and I'll show you a slide on one, that you want to make sure that you list everything that you do. And it's like it says here, the same NAICS code include different specialties. So when you, this California Unified Certification Program, the primary entity that manages all of it is Caltrans. So Caltrans is where you go to actually see the directory of who is actually certified. But all these entities that you see here, the City of Los Angeles Metro, BART, City of Fresno, Santa Clara, etc., they all actually do the certification. They review all the documents. They'll come and do the site visit. So eventually you end up in Caltrans DBE directory. And again, I mentioned NMSDC because they're a great organization. They've been around for, like I said, decades now. And predominantly what it is, as you see here, it's an organization that most Fortune 500 members are, 500 companies are members of the organization, are committed to increasing their spend with minority-owned companies. They charge a fee for the certification because, it takes time and effort to review all the documentation and things like that. Your certification is good for a year, so you have to pay again to get it renewed. But this is the part that's good. There's regional chapters, local members, networking events, training works. So these networking training events are the things that can, I think, really help you beyond the certification. WeBank is modeled right after NMSDC. In fact, NMSDC helped some women leadership to form WeBank back about 1999, I believe it was. But it's the same thing. Great networking opportunity and a way for you to get in front of some Fortune 500 companies. Supplier Clearinghouse, again, I mentioned earlier that they're unique to the state of California. And you can see here that the rules of, trying to increase their spend with women, minority, LGBT, veterans, etc., applies to any utility company that does over $25 million in revenues. So that's basically almost all of them. There's some small utility companies out in the rural areas, but all the big players that are out there, they have to abide by this. Again, there's no fee. And then they have this kind of this reciprocity, comparable agency verification. So again, if you're certified by, like, I think if you're certified by, if you have a DBE certification, they'll accept it. If you're, I believe too, if you're NMSDC or WeBank certified, they'll accept that as well and give you their certification. So this is the part that's kind of, we help you really kind of understand when you're thinking about certification, is that these are the basic requirements for all of them. First, you need to be either a U.S. citizen or a legal resident. Then the company needs to be at least 51% owned by that disadvantaged person or persons. So it could be that 51% ownership might be made up of 2 or 3 different people, but it has to be at least 51%. Again, it has to be for the government contracts, the business needs to be small. And remember that it varies. So with the state, their small business size standard is about half of what the federal government small business size standard is. And then for some of these private sector ones, there is no small business size standards. So like there are companies that are certified by WeBank and NMSDC that are billion-dollar-a-year companies. Control. This one is really important. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to go into these more in detail. And then personal net worth is what they're going to look at too. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. That's important to know. So again, ownership, you can have multiple owners, but at least 51% of the firms must be owned by disadvantaged individual or individuals. And then this part is important. Every owner that owns at least 10% of the firm must provide individual tax returns and financials. So I've seen where companies want to get certified, but they have like some silent partners, and those silent partners aren't willing to share their tax returns and financials. So the decision was made that, well, we're just going to try to be successful on our own and not leverage any kind of a certification. And likewise, no owner can have a personal net worth more than is permitted. So again, if you have this kind of like 10% thing, if you have one investor in your company that is really wealthy and has a personal net worth more than is permitted, then the company can't be certified. So control. So this is the one that kind of, I think a lot of people kind of get hung up on. But it's important to know you can have a disadvantaged and non-disadvantaged person can own a company jointly. That's fine. Again, however, the disadvantaged person must be the majority owner, at least 51. And then this next one, any license required to operate the business must be in the name of the disadvantaged individual. So what we run into probably the most is where you have a husband and wife that own a company. Say it's a construction company. She owns 51%, but the contractor's licensed in his name. That company will never get certified because basically the individuals, the analysts that review the applications will say this individual does not have that technical expertise to run the business because the license is not in her name. So that's really important. And we all know that a lot of companies like this, without the leadership of the wife, what she does to keep everything organized and running smoothly, the company, even though the husband knows construction, the company wouldn't be successful. Unfortunately, the license is something that is just a really deal breaker if it's not in her name. And then also the disadvantaged person must also hold the highest office as outlined in the company's governance documentation. And they look at all this. So again, on paper, you may show that the wife has got the title of CEO and president, but if the license isn't in her name, it's not going to get certified. So keep that in mind. Again, if you have any confusion on any of this stuff that I'm going through, just reach out to us and we can kind of spend a little more time to help you clearly understand it. But this is where most companies who are thinking about getting certified can't get certified. One thing I always kind of tell people too is if it's kind of gray, I'll say, the only way you're going to find out for sure is maybe submitting an application and see what the decision they'll make. And then you'll know for sure whether or not they think you're in control or not. So kind of per this control stuff too, one of the things that they'll ask for is like resumes. So even if it is a company that doesn't require a license, if the wife's resume kind of represents one industry, but the husband's resume represents the kind of business that is trying to get certified, then they'll say, well, the wife isn't in control of the business. So personal net worth. So you've seen that a couple of times. We talk about it, but it's really important to know that it excludes any kind of money you have invested in the business. It excludes your primary residence. So again, if the equity you have in your house is, $1 million, that's great. It excludes that. And it doesn't include any IRA or similar retirement funds that would incur any kind of significant penalties for early withdrawal. So, so when you think about that, most people's assets that are business owners are basically in the business, it's in their home, and that's about it. So it's what's left over is what they're looking for. What I've seen in the past where this will trip somebody up as far as getting certified is that they have a vacation home, or maybe they inherited a home from their parents that worth a lot of money. Those types of things that kind of pushes them over like this, either 1.3 or 750,000. So a little bit on eligible minority groups. And this is just what it is, but people use different terms for minority ethnic groups, etc. But so this term here, African American, it only includes sub-Saharan countries only. So even though people use this term African American, if you're from Morocco, Egypt, Libya, it doesn't count. Asian American, same thing. There's a lot of, Asia is a huge continent, but if you're from Iran, Iraq, the Middle East, those countries don't count. Russia's in Asia, it doesn't count. Basically, Asian American is like Korea, Japan, China, India, and then it goes to Pakistan. But once it gets to Afghanistan, then it no longer counts. Pacific Islander. So again, any of the Pacific Islanders, Malaysia, all those all count. Hispanic Americans, that counts. Native American, Alaskan Native, and then Hawaiian. So I want to go over this real quickly so you'll kind of know. And for all these certifications, like it says there in red, very similar, but there might be some subtle differences. But this is basically what they're going to want from you to get your company certified. So if you're looking for some type of certification based upon your status as a minority, they want proof of that status. So it might be like a birth certificate or passport or something like that would show that. They want to see financials. So they want to see financials of the company, typically either 2 or 3 years, depending on which one. They want to see year-end financials. That's income statement, balance sheets. They want to see tax returns on the company as well as the individual. And again, going back a couple years. Articles of incorporation, formation, bylaws. If it's incorporated, they want to see all this stuff, meeting minutes, business license, specialty license, those types of things. A personal net worth statement. So either they'll provide it or we can give you one, but it's a statement that basically you put down all your assets and liabilities so they can determine your personal net worth. Bank signature card or a letter from the bank that says, who has signing authority on the checks. Again, resume of all the owners, any kind of leases or loans, source of initial investment. This one's kind of an odd one, but again, they'll want to know. And then again, stock certificates and stock ledgers. If you're a corporation, it's real common, especially for small privately held corporations. A lot of people don't go to the bother of making stock certificates or keeping stock ledgers because the owner may be the only stockholder, etc. But if you're incorporated, they want to see those, so we can kind of help you with that. I mentioned earlier about NAICS codes. If you're not familiar with them, you can look them up here on the Census Bureau website. And this is how they're used. Basically, they start with two digits and then go down to 6 digits. And this is what you need to show in your DBE applications is the six digits. One thing I want to show you here, though, is like if you go into the website and here it is here, you can enter a search term in here and it'll pull up what you're looking for. If you have trouble, if you go in here trying to find your NAICS code, let us know. Sometimes I find it easier to look up in the SBA's small business size standard Excel spreadsheet, which is the right code, then go trying to figure out which terms they use for certain industries. But this is why I wanted to kind of show you, we looked at that number there, that 2373110, and the top thing said highways, road, bridges, construction. But you can see here that it's got all these kind of subcategories. They all have the same number. So again, what you want to do is include as much of this as possible. If you do any of this stuff, make sure you have this number. And it's okay if your business has, like say you have this code, but maybe you also do more vertical construction. So you might have 236220, which is more of like building buildings versus you can see this is more like highway roadway construction. Oh, and I put this one bullet down here, NAICS codes and tax returns. We've seen oftentimes where, you send all your information to an accountant, they prepare your taxes. On the tax return, they ask you for a NAICS code, and sometimes that accountant will just put anything on there. So then when you go through the certification process and they're looking at that tax return, they'll say, well, the tax return says that you do this kind of business, but over here you're saying you're doing something else. So because of that, we're going to need some kind of clarification from you or something from the tax return. So make sure that you get together with whoever prepares your taxes to make sure that they're putting the correct NAICS code on your tax return for your business. We're almost done here. So people ask questions. So these are good questions that we get all the time. How long does it take? One thing I always tell people is, you saw that list of all these documents and stuff that they want to see. So you got to think, how long is it going to take me to gather all that stuff up? Find a birth certificate, find these articles of incorporations. Maybe I don't have stock certificate. So that just getting all that stuff together might take you a month as you're busy, running your business. So then at some point you submit it to the certifying entity. Once you submit it, if it's a good certifying entity, they'll have it done in about 6 weeks. But I've seen with the SBA and the women-owned certifications, it taking 8 months or longer. So it's just going to take as long as it takes. This next one, what percentage of ethnicity do I need to qualify as minority? So it's 25%. So one of your grandparents, you can show is a member of a ethnicity that qualifies, then you're considered a minority. Do you have to be in business for a certain length of time? For all the certifications, the answer is no. So you can start the business today and apply for certification tomorrow. The ADA is somewhat confusing. They tell you that you have to be in business for 2 years before you apply. That is incorrect, because what they really mean is that you have to show that your company has been profitable for the 2 years leading up to when you apply. So again, if you started a business 10 years ago, but you did absolutely nothing with it, doesn't really mean you've been doing business. But that's what they're looking for is the fact that you've actually been profitable the last 2 years. And the reason why is 8A is really not a certification program per se. It's a business development program that has certain benefits to it. And but all the documentation they ask for is exactly the same stuff that they ask for the other certifications. Do you recommend paying someone to prepare my application? Absolutely not, because the hard work is you just going out and gathering all these documents that you have. So nobody really can help you with that. We can help you with that. Is now, like, when you gather all that stuff, you can send it to us. We can go through it and make sure that you have everything and we've got checklists for all these certifications. So we can look at it and say, oh, you've got, 10 of the 12 required documents, but you forgot these 2. And that happens just because there's so many things that they want. If a fee for certification is required, do I get my money back if I'm denied certification? The answer is no. So some of these third-party certifiers that do process certifications, if they turn you down, you don't get your money back, because again, it takes time for someone to review everything that you submitted, so you don't get your money back. Are brokers eligible? And the answer to that is no. That kind of goes back to that commercially useful function. So if you're a broker, you're really not eligible for any certification. Reciprocity, again, that's just going to vary depending on who it is that you're talking to. Can a franchise business be certified? So that's an interesting question. That's we've seen some different traction on that recently. And for the most part, that answer is no. But in some cases, they'll make an exception. It's all based upon control. It basically would require the analyst to review your franchise agreement to see how much control that you have over certain things in your business. So there is some rare exceptions to it, but for the most part, the answer is no. So this one comes up. Which certification is best? So I've for years just been telling people whichever one your customer wants you to have. So there's a variety of different certifications here. And, again, you may be certified with it and have a DBE certification, but the person you're trying to sell your product or service to will say, that's great, but I'd like you to get WeBanks or NMSDCs, or you have those and you go to someone else and they say, well, that's great, but I want you to have supplier clearinghouses. So whichever certification is best is whichever one the customer wants you to have. So this last slide, what certification does and doesn't do. What does it do? It just shows that you're a certified business. That's all certification does. It doesn't guarantee you any contracts. It doesn't guarantee you any kind of access to decision makers. It doesn't make you more attractive to a lender or surety. And it doesn't guarantee if you get one certification that you qualify for others. So I've seen some people who say have an 8A certification, but they can't get a DBE certification. Their certification doesn't say anything about your qualifications as a company. So that's the most important thing, is you want to go out, get strong performance history on your company that you can share with other potential customers to say, yes, I've done this kind of work before. I've sold this product or service to other people before. Oh, and by the way, if it's important to you, I'm also a certified, say, a woman-owned business veteran or whatever. You don't want to be selling your certification. You want to be selling your value proposition. I mentioned a bunch of these entities here. So these are all the websites. Final just takeaways. Determine if there are set-asides for your industry. So one of the things that when people are looking at certifications, especially like in the federal marketplace, we'll say, go to sam.gov and see whether or not you're seeing set-asides for the socioeconomic group that you belong to. Because if you don't see them now, likelihood you're not going to see it in the future. So don't bother getting certified if that's not an area where they're using that. Remember that certifications are similar, but there are slight differences. And then this one's really important. Certifiers can always ask for more information. So you send them this whole package of stuff, all these different documents and things like that, but they can always ask you for more information to kind of clarify anything. Typically, that's going to come into the control aspect of information that you sent. So they can always ask you for more. Again, certification doesn't guarantee you a contract. I mentioned this before, whichever certification your client wants is the best. And then, as I mentioned before, sell your value proposition, not your socioeconomic status. Too often when I'm like at a outreach event, first thing that comes out of someone, oh, I'm a veteran-owned business, or I'm a woman-owned business. Well, people don't care about that. They want to know what it is you sell and how it is you're going to save them money. They want to know what your value proposition is. The fact that, you can help them meet a goal can be helpful to them in making that decision. One thing too, I'll say about certification, especially in the federal marketplace, is that that's kind of ties to this determining if your set-asides are for your industry. The federal agencies have all these goals that they need to meet, but they know from experience that they can hit their goals easier by focusing on, say, 4 or 5 industries. So that's why they're not setting aside contracts for everything that they buy. They kind of, like I said, like the certain types of industry. So that's why it's important that you kind of go in there and take a look at what opportunities they're setting aside. And again, if they're not setting them aside for the type of business that you operate in, then more than likely it's not going to happen in the future. So let's jump into kind of questions. Somebody wants to know what type of broker you're referring to. So it's any kind of a broker. So again, if you're somebody that basically, somebody who has a product, somebody else who wants to buy it, you just kind of arrange the sale of that, whether it's a product or service. Again, the way it's looked at is you're not providing value to that transaction. It'd be different if it's a product, as an example. If you bought the product, you're from say a manufacturer, put it in your warehouse and then sold it, that's totally different. So it says for new businesses, how would they qualify with no business tax return? Actually, if it's a new business, it does make it easier because you don't have any tax returns. So you could do that. Again, the thing to remember is that you can be certified, but again, the potential customer wants to know, who have you sold this product or service to in the past? That's what's going to get you the business. So the certifications can help, but more it's your past performance that really helps. So someone's asking a question here. It says, I've been hearing about Indian Small Business Economic Enterprise and Indian Economic Enterprise. Can you clear what the criteria of these enterprises are, when they will take effect in solicitations, and how they differ from the current Academy of Native American? Those programs are more for tribes buying from Native American owned businesses. So it's not a government program per se, like a federal or state government program per se. It's more internal to reservations across the country. And the primary criteria is you need to be, if you're a Native American, you need to be a card holding member of a tribe. It could be that you grew up all your life, people always said, oh, we're Cherokee, we've always been Cherokee. Well, if you don't have a tribal membership card, then it doesn't count. Someone asks, as real estate does not mean I want to participate in these programs if they're not involved in a real estate transaction. I don't understand that question. It says, as a real estate, I'm guessing as a real estate agent, yeah, I guess what I would say to that, because I don't really understand your question, would be, again, for you to go into like SAM.gov or to the state to see whether or not they're setting aside opportunities for the type of real estate services you provide. I do know that we have like a client that does very well, kind of like property management, that's certified as a veteran-owned company. So I think that's part of, that's why I gotta say, you want to kind of go and do your market research to see whether the product or service that you sell is being set aside for certain socioeconomic groups. Because again, if you're not seeing it, then it's more than likely it's not going to happen. Yeah, so this person says they're a real estate broker. Again, I would say for you to look at opportunities to see whether or not what you do really as a real estate broker is something that you're seeing set aside. you know, so follow-up question says, as a real estate agent, cannot I participate in these programs? You know, you can get certified, but again, it may not do you any good to be certified. So that's why I say it's important for you to go to do your market research, go to sam.gov or Cali Procure to see what it is the government is purchasing, and then to see if the service that you want to provide or the product you want to provide, if they're setting aside any of those products or services for a certification that you feel that you might qualify for. If they're not, then again, it's not worth the time of getting certified. You know, yes, you can get certified. They'll certify you, but whether you'll ever get any benefit from it is more than likely you won't. Yeah, I've seen too many people just make the mistake of they start a business. The first thing they do is go out and go through all this hassle of getting certified, but then they really don't focus on going out and selling product or service, because again, that's what's really important, is people want to know, can you deliver the product or service that you're wanting to sell to me? And if you don't have a track record doing that, you know, great that you're certified, but we're not interested. And that's why, like way back in the beginning, you know, we talked about SBDCs, small business development centers. They can they're really good at helping you put together a business plan, so you really can develop a map of where you want to go, and then you've really looked at everything so that any contingencies that might happen along the way, and you've done your market research and focused on who the competition is out there and who your potential customers are, etc. Oh, so this guy says, I'm a real estate broker. I just want to know if being a broker would automatically disqualify. It says, I do other things, not just real estate. Yeah, so it doesn't, so you wouldn't be trying to get certified then as a broker. You know, you try to move away from that and go into something new, then again, the message is, okay, if you want to move into something new, start gaining success in doing that, and then try to start selling that product or service to the government. Yeah, people change careers all the time. Yeah. All right, we've gone 12 minutes past. I know I was kind of long-winded there, but again, I'm going to send everybody who's in attendance today a copy of the presentation. You'll also get a link to the recording, and you can listen to this presentation again. So with that, thank you very much. Oh, let's see. I forgot to mention. So we've got a couple upcoming webinars. Oops. I did something here. I can't see it. There we go. October 12th, we're going to do an intro to government contracting. It happens to be National Apex Accelerated. That's going to be a Thursday. And then on, October 26th is cybersecurity. We're going to be talking about cybersecurity and CMMC 2.0. It's actually not going to be us presenting. It's going to be a group called Project Spectrum. But it's a really important presentation, especially right now, if you want to sell product or services to the Department of Defense. So with that, well, thank you very much, and then we'll see you in a couple weeks.